Hey, everybody. Happy terrific Tuesday. I hope everybody has had a very refreshed week so far. And I am your host, Felicia Brogy, and thank you so much for tuning in again for another edition of Positive Tea with Fee this evening. Um, I want to just get right into it. The topic that I chose for tonight is how the pandemic became personal. And of course, that's right on time. We all watch the news. We kind of have an idea of what's going on in the world and what's been going on in the world on some level at this point. And I just consider myself very fortunate to not have had any direct effects that were really long standing. Of course, we've all had some type of effect from the pandemic, but I'm blessed to be here and to be able to talk with you tonight. So thanks for being here with me on a subject that a lot of people really don't want to get into for more reasons than one. And really, like we've talked about before in the show, how we're dealing with the pandemic now versus how we were dealing with it when it first came out is so different because we have more information now. We're kind of used to some things, no matter where you stand. I won't get too much into that, but we're kind of at a point where I feel like we know what we're dealing with. We know where we're at. We know what we're going to be dealing with, and we know that we're not going to go back to the way it was. So, with that being said, the pandemic really became personal for me. It became something that I didn't view as a stumbling block anymore. The pandemic became something that I saw as an opportunity. And so, me personally, I can honestly say that the majority of the pandemic has been personally advantageous to me. And the first area that I want to talk about is tutoring. The pandemic became personal as far as tutoring goes because I was able to serve as a tutor for others, and these are not just individuals that I know or am related to. These are also individuals that I didn't know personally before the pandemic. And the Bible says there's more happiness in giving than there is in receiving. So whenever I have been able to do that on any level, um, it's been very rewarding for me personally. And the reason that I'm going to say it's been very rewarding is because before the pandemic, I can honestly say helping people was something that kind of it was second nature for me, but it wasn't something that I structurally set out to do. And so there's helping people, there's assisting people in any area of their lives that we do to show love or to just show that human concern for someone else. And then there's the structured help. And so tutoring in itself, depending on what area that you're going in, is you're helping someone to be more effective in one skill set or another. So that's the area that we're talking about. And so by means of Zoom and by means of other virtual assisting tools, I was able to assist some of the elderly that I come into contact with. I was able to assist them in typing. I was able to assist them in enhancing their public speaking. I was able to assist them in any learning skills that they wanted to expound on. And a lot of the ways I was able to do that is simple conversation, simple maneuvering of things that they already knew, and giving them pointers on how to help things. One of the more constructive, effective tools that used was online assessments. Sometimes they would have to get assistance with those. But I will say that if you are in an area where you want to start doing some tutoring, whether it's virtual or in person, as you see fit, depending on what area you're in. Assessments online are going to be very effective. The reason why these assessments are so effective is sometimes the person that you're tutoring in whatever area, they don't understand where they are. They may know they want to get better in an area. They may know that they lack understanding in one area or another. They sometimes have always done things a certain way, and they're not even aware that it's a better way of doing it. Another reason why online assessments are good is it's also going to kind of gauge you that person's learning style. Everybody has a different learning style, whether it be typing, whether it be speaking, writing, or even cooking. Everybody has a different learning style. Some of us are very visual. We like to see things right in front of us. We like to view demonstrations and observe things, and then other people are more hands on. So, depending on what it is, I found that online assessments are very good because it allows you to kind of know where that person is. Another thing within the tutoring, I know that there are a lot of people who tutor to make money. I haven't ventured out into doing that just yet. I think with anything you do, including tutoring, before you start setting a price set, you want to make sure it's something that you can do that's actually going to help someone else. You want to make sure it's something that you can do that's going to actually benefit that person. And you want it to be something that's going to represent you in a way that's positive. Tutoring is something that's very structured, and it's not something that you can do 1 minute and then slack the next. Of course, we always have things that happen. Someone may not feel well, need to reschedule, things like that. But if you want to go into tutoring before, during, or after the pandemic, it doesn't even matter. Tutoring is going to have to be something that you keep a consistent schedule, because this is something to benefit the person that you're tutoring. And so you want to give them the best representation of knowing that they can rely on you for that specific skill. Another thing to keep in mind about tutoring is you want to make sure that whatever you're tutoring in, whatever area it is, that you not only excel in that area, but that you're comfortable showing the skills that you have. You don't want it to be an area that you may have mastered, or that you know how to do and you're comfortable with, but you're not comfortable showing your actual skill set. You want it to be something that you're comfortable showing someone. So it's good to have the desire to assist another human being, and it's good to want to share that information. But the difference is tutoring, to keep it structured and to keep it effective and consistent, you have to be comfortable enough to get to a point where you can show your own skills. And sometimes that takes time. A lot of people, they hear the word tutoring and they're like, oh, well, I can just show someone how to do that. But it's more than just that. It's a lot more than just that. It's actually making sure that you can effectively help another individual to learn how to do something. And so, in doing that, you're going to be able to enhance your own skill set. Because tutoring, being the ability to tutor, you have to have a skill to be able to do that. And so that was able to allow me to enhance my skill set in that way. And so in the future, if I want that to be something that I venture into as a business, or as something that's offered on an even more structured setting, I've already got the experience under my belt, and the references, and the people who have benefited from my skill set. So tutoring is definitely something that the pandemic allowed me to really use as a way of helping others, and a way of enhancing someone else's life. And so I'm so thankful for that, because if it hadn't been for the pandemic, I'm not sure it would have went that way. The next way that the pandemic became very personal for me is information. We are already in the information age as it is. So the pandemic became personal with the information area, because the pandemic helped me gather tons of information from a lot of different sources. And it wasn't really that way before. I think before I was so busy into everything that I was doing is the area of information didn't really hit home. We get so busy coming and going. We were, if you have a day job, you're doing that. You're picking up groceries, you're taking your kids where they need to go, you're picking up whatever other, items you might need to pick up for yourself as well. But with the pandemic, you were kind of in a situation where you had to kind of force yourself to be creative. So because of that, the information that I was able to gain during the pandemic, it came from sources that I didn't consider before, but they were always there. For instance, virtual interviews. I'd used Zoom before. I used Facebook before. I'd used different platforms before. But during the pandemic, it was kind of necessary to a different degree. And so you start relying on the pandemic for business knowledge and business information. And then you get to the point where you want to start kind of getting creative with it. Start kind of seeing what other places you can go with the virtual interviews. So you were able to sit back and be like, okay, so this is the way we're communicating at work. This is the way we're communicating in this avenue. I was able to take Zoom and other platforms and use those virtual interviews to gather information from individuals who maybe were not accessible before, who maybe were accessible, but they weren't fitting with my schedule. Our schedules never matched up or whatever. So I've been able to do a lot of virtual interviews. Another thing that I leaned on occasionally before, but not like I have during the pandemic, is just the regular snail mail, letter writing, card sending, uh, postcards, all that has not before been something that I really relied on that much. But during the pandemic, I've been able to gather so much information through the mail, and I've been able to send lots of information through the mail. Another thing that I've relied on to receive and give information has been conference calls. And that's another thing that we've always been able to do, but I don't think we really saw the advantages of conference calls. At least I didn't. And I personally, I'm going to say at least 4 or 5 times a week, I'm taking advantage of conference calls in one way or another. And sometimes it's not even a business type thing, it's simple information exchange between me and individuals that I find it necessary to communicate with. So conference calls are something that we didn't necessarily do before that we've been able to do a lot more now. And now it's definitely going to be a necessary evil for me, just like Zoom and a few other platforms. And so, open forums by means of social media is another way during the pandemic that I have sent and received plenty of information. And Facebook has been my go to for years now, but I'm now venturing off a little bit more into the other platforms. Instagram, YouTube. I've been able to kind of play with those. And then there's been a few other areas that I'm starting to get a little bit more familiar with, but since I'm not as comfortable as I am with the other ones, I'm kind of, getting the hang of what they have to offer. And then I kind of figure once I get comfortable enough to be able to go to the next step with those are going to be, something that I use maybe not as much as I do Facebook because I'm so comfortable with Facebook and I've been using it for so long. But it's definitely going to be something that I kind of put in the basket as one of my picks. And another thing that I've been able to take as far as the advantage of the pandemic and gathering and receiving information are online classes. You will be surprised at the online classes that are right now available. A lot of them are actually free, and then some of them are not necessarily free, but the charge is a lot less than it normally would be. And so, like I've told, others before, there's no particular website that I'm going to say that I endorse or advertise, but I will say this: Google is your best friend when it comes to information. There are so many online classes. Some of them are maybe a few weeks, others are kind of paced as you go. and you just kind of send or receive the information as it comes to you or as you need it. And then others, maybe 3 to 6 months. But you might want to venture into that right now with the pandemic as it is. Lots of universities, community colleges, and other schools are offering online classes right now more than they ever have before. And some of these are subjects that you never would guess would be so available, but they are because the pandemic has changed the way everybody does things. And because the pandemic has changed, these universities, these colleges, even individual teachers and professors and educators, they've had to offer online classes. So it's no longer about just making money or even necessarily handing out degrees. Right now, some of these websites and these online classes are simply trying to offer the information. And with the information, the value of the information, whether you're receiving it in a classroom or an in person seminar versus online, it's not going to change because it's the same information. I have been able to gather so much information. I've been able to do so much as far as things that I never would have thought would be available online is online now. And so you might want to check that out. You never know. And you're not going to know unless you actually get on there and do some research and see what's available. And you're going to thank me later, I promise you. And the last thing that we're going to talk about tonight that really made the pandemic personal for me is the business end of things. Okay. So I was officially 4 years for the company that I work for on January the 15th. So everyone knows that we became remote in March of 2000, late March of 2020. Okay. So we're now in 2022. So um, I have found it so convenient to be home and to be able to still work. I actually changed programs in the company that I'm at late last year. And it's just been, I don't know, I never saw my job as convenient before because I had to commute. But I'm going to say this, the opportunity to relax and in a convenient, familiar environment while you learn is actually it's priceless because I'm not sure at age 40, all the information that I've been receiving, all the different customer accounts that I deal with, I'm not sure that I would have been able to grasp a lot of things in the way I've been able to in my own environment versus being in the office. Mind you, I worked in the office for almost 4 years with the same company, but that was a program that I was familiar with. So I'm not sure if I was still in the office changing to a more intense program with a lot more information that I would have been able to grasp it. And I still have a long way to go in learning, but just the fact that I'm at home has taken me to new levels. It takes the extra stress off of you because you don't have to commute, and it also adds that extra comfort that you get doing your job at home, dealing with your customers at home. And then with some of them working remotely as well, it's just you're on that relatable end of things where you and them are forming this relationship, and it's business, which is the bottom line. But the most important thing is that you're working and they're working. You're both at home, you're both in your environment, and you're so comfortable doing what you do because they're doing what they have to do and you're doing what you have to do, but you're in the comfort of your own home. And not all of my customers are at home now. Actually, since I changed programs, a lot more of my customers are actually blue collar workers. So they are at the shop or at their business, but I'm still at home. And so that extra layer of comfort allows me to feel the convenience of building rapport and still taking care of business from my home. It's also an opportunity outside of my 9 to 5, with all the other things I do with my ministry, my outreach, the opportunity to reach people who I definitely couldn't reach before. And this goes back to that information piece that we just got done talking about. There are certain people, if there wasn't a pandemic, you never would have heard from them. It would have been impossible. But because the pandemic has allowed people to change their way of thinking, they're able to offer more in the business sense. So I am now working, my goal by the end of 2022 is to have 5 streams of income totally. Okay. And I don't mean like I have a few irons in the fire. So I don't mean irons in the fire. Okay. I mean to have them up and running, to have them functioning and everything. And because of the pandemic, and it has become so personal to me, I've been able to reach out to other people who are skilled in business. I've been able to bounce ideas off of them, and they've been able to bounce ideas off of me, and I'm able to understand a lot of better ways that you can make money by never leaving your house. And these are things that I never considered before. And this is right beside things I had considered before, but just didn't have the convenience to do them, or the tangibility to do them, or the structure to actually sit down and formulate a plan that was going to be effective at not just making money, but advertising and benefiting my customers. And so doing more with your money allows you to turn business into something that benefits you, not just today, not just tomorrow, but something that can benefit you for a while. And so I'm working on some things here, and once those things are set in stone, and I know where I'm going with it, I will let you guys know. Business becomes therapeutic when it's no longer just about money. And henceforth, why my dad used to say when he was going to work before he retired that he was getting ready to go to a party. And the reason why is because he loved what he did. And so when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I found that you can do that in so many different ways being at home that we weren't able to do it before. It was impossible for us to offer certain things before. It was an inconvenience to offer certain things before, just like it was an inconvenience for some of the information that I've gathered or some of the people that I've tutored before. It would have been an inconvenience before, but now it's not. And so it's just opening up so many more doors. So just keep in mind that the pandemic has become so personal, not just in ways that are nice and neat and structured, but also so many more ways to enhance your livelihood and build that bank account and enhance your future ultimately. And so I hope you guys are really taking to heart some of the things that I'm saying about the pandemic. It is very personal for me. There have been some sad things that have occurred during the pandemic, and I don't want uh, to say that those things are not important, because they're definitely important. But for me personally, and I can only speak from my personal experience, most of the things that have went on for me have enhanced my life in so many different ways, and these are just a few things that I've seen that I've been able to expound upon. I'm still tutoring. I'm still learning and gathering information. I have a couple of classes that I will probably be getting into closer to the summer, and I will fill you guys in on those and the business opportunities. They come as they come. And so I just want you to understand, like I've said before, try to look at the pandemic as an opportunity. If you see something as negative, because some negative things have come out of it, it's going to continue to be negative. But by accepting the fact that this is our new normal, and really just kind of taking a step back and being able to see how you can use it to your advantage to enhance your life and enhance your purpose, you might just find that, just like with me, the pandemic will be something personal and personally positive. Okay. So thanks you guys for the support of the show. I want to say again how much I appreciate you. Last month in Joyous January, we were able to start the year off with the second season of the show. And I will continue giving you guys more insight into specific things that I'm doing and specific ways that I've been able to turn my life around and focus on positivity and therefore enhance my life with purpose that was given to me from above. And I hope I can continue to inspire you. And never forget, there would be no me without you. And I'm so thankful that you guys are here with me again. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of Positive Tea with Fee, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.